Welcome to Craft School. I'm going to show you how to make this gorgeous arrangement, and I've used 3 different types of crepe paper flowers as well as live greenery. I have lots of tips and tricks, so come on, let's go make it. The tools that I'll use for this arrangement, I have some heavy-duty wire cutters so I can clip down the chicken wire, and then I have some clippers, and these are actually professional florist clippers. You can find them online. They're called Klaus. There's a link below, and they are my favorite. I also have some floral tape to finish off my stems, an array of greenery that I've picked up at my grocery store. I have a container, a low container, and this is just chicken wire that I picked up at the hardware store. It's the narrow chicken wire, and I'll clip that down and fit it into here. Then I've picked out an array of the crepe paper flowers that I'm going to use in this arrangement. So we're going to start by placing this chicken wire inside the container, and I'll show you how I do that. All you have to do is measure it out, and since I don't want it much longer than my container, I can see that I want to clip it about right here. This is a technique that I used to use when I had my flower shop. When you're making these large arrangements, it just really helps keep things in the container, especially if you're using a low container, without falling out, and it's very inexpensive. If I were doing a round container, I might cut off some of my corners, or you can just tuck those in. But in this case, what I'll do is just round it out like this, and then bend these in so that they can fit. This is a little DIY frog, and a frog is the holder for your flowers. That's a term in the floral world. So this is a little DIY version of a frog. Now you can go ahead and put water in your container. Since this is really wide, I wouldn't put a whole lot. I would maybe put 1 or 2 inches. And at this point, we can start arranging our greens. And I'm gonna show you what I do. I picked these greens up at the grocery store, and you can often find some really great greens at the grocery store, and they come bundled with plastic around them. But the first thing I'll do when I get them home from the grocery store is clip off the rubber band, and I'll clip them at an angle and put those in water immediately. And once you do that, I'm not going to put them in water right now, but if you get them, go ahead and do that. That way they can rehydrate before you put them in your bouquet. And then the other thing that I often do is I'll clean off all of the extra greens, because you don't want the leaves in the water. So here we have 2 different varieties of eucalyptus. I have some conifers, some pine branches here, same thing. This is a real mix. I'll just go ahead and clip the end, and I might clip this again when I'm arranging it, depending how big I want it. So here's a perfect example. So if I'm going to stick this into my container and I want the water to kind of hit the bottom, I don't want these to be in the water because they spoil the water and turn it into colors and add bacteria. So you'll just go ahead and pull those off and then clip them on an angle, and then they're ready for your arrangement. Over here I have more greens ready to go. Here's another eucalyptus, some ferns, and then an additional conifer. Now I'm not going to use all of this in my arrangement. I just like to have a lot of excess because I will make more than one arrangement. All right, we're ready to arrange. I want this to be quite long, and I want the greenery to drape out pretty far, so I'm going to move some of these things over. I'll start with the heaviest greenery, and that I think would be these pine branches. I'll stick them on the ends, and I'm going to make for sure that they hit the water. You can see how the wire is holding it really nicely because I've shoved it through. So that's going to be a really great way to hold that in place. I'll do one on the other end. I have it arranged so that it's tucked into the wire. I don't have water in here yet. You can put water in at the end, but I would do it before you add your paper flowers. And now I'm going to start tucking in these beautiful seeded eucalyptus branches. I don't want all of these. You can just pull them off, or you can clip them either way. I'm loving using eucalyptus for Christmas and for fall this year. I feel like it has, I don't know, it's not quite so Christmassy. It has just that fall flavor or the winter flavor, and I like the green of it too. I like that sagey green. I think it's so pretty. And all you want to do is just fill this out so it looks nice and full and you can't see the wire anymore. This is where you can get really creative. And also the way I'm arranging it is I'm not wanting anything to stand up tall. I want it all to kind of drape this way. And the trick is, since I did have the bigger piece of wire, as I'm wrapping them in, I just want to tuck the stems into the base of the wire so that the stems actually hit the water. I would love to be able to make these out of crepe paper, but that would take a lot. So the live version is just perfect. Okay, let's add something else. How about some ferns? I think these are a little long. I can start tucking them underneath the other branches. If you want to do just a simple greenery arrangement, that would work for this too. Maybe put some Christmas balls in. And then these are perfect for the top because they drape. I can slide them straight down and then they drape over. This smells so good right now. This is going to add that extra fragrance to your dinner table or your display. So as long as you can get the stems into the water, you can use all of your bits and pieces and tuck them in. So I'm going to turn it around so I can see this other side and you can see what I've created on this side. Depending on how fresh your greenery is when you purchased it, I think that this could last, I would say at least a week. Depends on how much water source that it has. So now I'm just filling in all the final little holes where I can still see the wear, although the flowers will be able to fill that in as well. I have some little stems here, so I'm just gonna pull off the needles and tuck those in. It's as easy as that. I'm picking greens that have different textures and different shapes and also different tones of green because I want that variety. So this is a really good addition. It adds just a touch more of that sagey green. And then the texture is different, so it adds a little bit of interest. When you step back and look at your greenery, you want to make sure that everything has a flow, that it has a shape to it. You want it to be kind of easy on the eye. You want to have some sort of visual congruency, I suppose. So, you know, when I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, this one might be a little strong. Maybe I could tuck it in a bit deeper. It almost stands out too much. Even though we will have flowers on top of this, it's great to have your base as spot on as possible because honestly, this itself is an arrangement. Again, you could just add some Christmas balls and there you go. When you're adding paper flowers into your live arrangement and you have a water source at the base, there's something that you need to think about, and that is making sure that your paper doesn't have any access to the water. So I love to use my paper covered stems. I feel like that gives the most realistic look, and it's also the easiest to work with when I'm making paper flowers. However, paper or fabric stems, there is a possibility that the water might wick up the stem and then get the flower wet, and you do not want that to happen. So here's a couple different thoughts. One, this is something I've tried a bit, but it is a pain, and that is I might cut and strip the paper off. That's an option. Another option is you can take your tape and you'll want to basically seal your whole stem. So it's actually made for water. It's wax on paper, so the wax itself seals it. So I'm going ahead and I'm sealing the whole stem, top to bottom, with this tape. And that way, if it does get wet, you want to make sure the bottom as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tear this off, wrap it around the base, and then back up again. See, I'm folding that over and then back up. And if you have that nice and tight, you should not have any water wicking up to your flower. Another option is clip your stem short, and then you can just tuck that into your bouquet, kind of nestle it in. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take all these flowers and put them into this arrangement. When I'm making an arrangement, whether it be flowers made from paper or real flowers, I always start with my focal flower, which will be these red peonies. And these have a really thick paper stem. This one I could strip down if I want to. I want to reuse this again, so I won't strip it down. And it has been covered with floral tape. But just to make sure, I'll go ahead and bend it up so that I can keep it out of the water source and just tuck it into the greenery itself. I can feel my other side of the stem here so I know I'm not getting it into the water. Bend my head, and there you go. So I have two different colors here. I have some red ones. And you'll want to arrange it, I would say asymmetrically. Try not to make it too even and symmetrical. And you know, you might cluster a couple of them like this, but then make the others spread out a bit. And I also like to work in odd numbers. I have 5 peonies here, so I'll use all 5. I'm doing an arrangement so that both sides can be seen. This is going to sit at the center of the table. And I have these other flowers that are similar color, and I can use that to balance them. And then I'll fill it out with the other flowers. The next flower I'm going to use, I have some of these purple anemones and then some red in 2 different colors. Since I have less purple, and this is more of an accent color, I'll put those in next. And again, I'll just bend this up. These are actually covered, so if I do touch the water, it's okay. And then I'll just kind of eyeball it and figure out where I want the purple. Remember to, some of your flowers, you want to tuck it in deeper so that you get more of a 3D arrangement and everything's not just sitting on the surface. And then we're going to add our red. So I'll go ahead and arrange them. I'll cluster them with some other things. I don't want them just to be evenly spaced all over. And then I have my final 3. And again, I don't want to make them very evenly spaced all over. I want to have some blank spaces. The last flower that I'm going to add into this bouquet are these little tiny paperwhites. And this just adds the final texture and gives a bit of pop of white. This is really an accent flower, so I'll tuck these in pretty deep and evenly across the bouquet. And these are great to kind of put towards the end. And this looks great. So I'll show you, here's the one side, and then as you rotate around the table, you can see it looks beautiful on both sides. And everything is not off center, it's just well balanced. So that's what you're going to look for when you're making these arrangements. You will find all 3 of these crepe paper flowers with the templates and tutorials on leahgriffith.com. Don't forget to click the button below so that you can see all of our new videos, and remember to hashtag Made with Leah when you share your creations so that we can share them on our social as well.